Hi, I'm Dr. Christina Chester, and welcome again to our MCPS video series, Waymaking. Our goal is to help families make their way through many of the emotional challenges we are faced with today. I have with me today Dr. Tamie Smith, who is a school psychologist in MCPS. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, Dr. Conley, I'm so glad to be here. Dr. Conley Chester, I am so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And so, as a psychologist that works at high schools, like you see a lot of students who struggle to graduate from high school. What are the biggest problems that you see with students who fall behind and are at risk of not graduating or graduating on time?
There are always extenuating circumstances, as we know, but school teams assemble regularly to examine what's going on with students who are not keeping up or who are failing classes. And what we find oftentimes are students who may have poor patterns of poor attendance. Some students are just making other things a priority other than school. So some come to school, but they don't actually go to class. Some may go to class, but they're not paying any attention to instruction. I can't tell you the number of times that I'm walking down a hallway and look in a classroom door and I see a student with a book in front of them, but they're secretly doing something on their phones. And we have teachers that submit reports, and so many other times the problems that they are concerned about are the use of the cell phone, and which means that the student is just not attending. We have students who just don't take school seriously, and they don't seem to really understand even the reason for being in the school building. They don't recognize the opportunities that are being provided to them to prepare them for the high school diploma. And then we find some students who do go to class, but may be struggling, and they may have some self-defeating thoughts. I've heard students say things like, I don't really care. It doesn't matter. I hate school. I'm not going to need this after school anyway. So these are just a few factors, but they are factors that do concern me.
Right. No. And so, you know, it says like my next thing is like, so, but there is a bigger picture, for students to be aware of, right?
Right.
When it comes to graduation. So what is that?
Okay. Well, our society is set up so that every person from ages 6 through 18 must attend school. It's the law. And so all instruction from kindergarten on is designed to ultimately help a student obtain a diploma. So they start off with pre-literacy skills. They teach them literacy, how to read and write and do math. When you reach around the third grade, then it's a pivotal point where you go from learning to read to reading to learn. But all of these skills are to come together so that once you go through middle school and high school, then you're prepared to succeed in the curriculum where you have to earn credits towards graduation. So there is a design there for students. And so what I want students to remember is that we as a society have provided these educational opportunities. When you go into school buildings, we provide comfortable, safe, clean schools. We have people who bring them to schools, buses and bus drivers. We have people who are here to prepare food for students who wish to eat here. We have people who went to college just so they can be teachers to teach students. We have administrators who love kids, counselors who are here because they want to provide guidance. Everyone in the school building is here to support students. Everyone has a job and a responsibility. And sometimes I find that the missing piece is that the student is not doing their job or taking their responsibility seriously.
No, and and as we think about, post, high school and going out and getting a job or going out into the workforce, that, you have students who are like, I have other priorities, or maybe I have my family, or maybe, got to go work and take care of them. Or, like you said, like school's always been difficult. Maybe I have some learning difficulties or some special needs that are going on. And so, and you think like, I don't need this, but I can't tell you how many students who then leave, or they withdraw or drop out, and they come back and they're like, I really needed this because I needed those math skills to make sure if I was at work and my paycheck was off, that I could
Right,
count up like, why was it off? I worked this many hours, I get paid this much, and what happened?
right,
Or balancing a checkbook, or paying your taxes, or,
right.
being able to read contracts that you're going to go and work someplace. Like all these skills do come together so
Absolutely.
that you can go forth and do adult things. But sometimes it's hard for our adolescents to see that when they're in
Right.
school. And so like these are all part of those life lessons that, so many kids, I remember from when I was in school, and other kids I worked with when I was a school psychologist in a school, and they come back and are like, I wish somebody had come and told me this, when I was in high
Exactly.
school, so I could have changed my behavior. I could have gone down a different path,
Right,
because so many skills, are needed. And
right.
so then for, you talked about there are high school students who struggle,
Mhm,
with many of these difficulties that you described. So, let's talk about some of the positives. So what are some things that they can do,
mhm,
in order to turn things around to
mhm.
help them to get to a place where they can graduate? Because I'm going to tell you, getting a high school diploma is much easier than coming back and trying to get a GED.
Absolutely. And that's something that I really want students to hear, is that uh, the the way we're set up again in our society is that from ages 14 to 18 are designated for high school, for entering high school, getting the credit hours you need, and to graduate with a diploma when you're 18 years of age. Students will never have an opportunity like that again. It just won't happen where they'll take on certain, responsibilities. Life just has different challenges. And so if you use the opportunity that's made available to you at no cost, people say it's a free education. It's not free. It costs all of us in our society through our tax dollars to provide these opportunities for students. So I say there's an implied contract, and their responsibility back to us is just to come and learn, do their best, and get their diploma, and then become productive members of society. So, but to do so, you mentioned there are students with learning difficulties, and that's very true. And we go through different measures to identify those students. But we have a lot of students who are capable, but just don't have the right mindset. And those students, I really want to hear this message. So what I'd like students to begin to do, I hear a lot of grumblings about homework, but there are things that are important about homework. So I say to build into your everyday routine a time to do homework. And it's not just to begrudgingly do it because the teacher said. Homework is really designed to reinforce concepts that students learn during the day. Teachers can only introduce concepts and explain so much, but to really learn, to really reinforce it, means you have to review it. You have to spend time with material in order to incorporate it into your own memory bank, and then it could be there to use later. Uh, it's helpful if students have a study buddy. Some kids who really like to socialize, you can find a group of kids who are serious about school and studying, who like to socialize, but they know how to turn it off and also study when it's time. And so if students are with others who are not taking it seriously, and I'm speaking to those who are not taking it seriously too, but for those who are listening to this message, do seek out students who have a more serious mindset about school. And so what I'm saying really is to make it a priority. Uh, again, take these opportunities. They're here for a purpose, and the purpose isn't to come and socialize or to play video games. It really is to learn. And every adult in this building has gone through extensive measures to make that happen. So they have a small part, which is just to show up dressed nice and neat and decently, of course, but ready to learn. So,
Um,
and there's one thing I want students to also ask themselves honestly. Just look at how much time do you spend on your phone or electronic device compared to how much time you focus on classroom instruction, how much time you do homework, and whether you're getting good sleep at night. We have some kids that are on their devices till 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then they're very, very tired and they can't stay awake during the day. And I focused on electronics, but it really is a bigger picture, and that is the commitment to their schooling and to their achievement. If they can change their way of thinking, they can really change their way of behaving. I tell students to also, examine those negative thoughts. If you have thoughts like, oh, school is stupid, or it doesn't mean anything, what is that all about? What is that about? And what that suggests is that they're not really thinking about, first of all, cultivating themselves as human beings, but also preparing themselves. And, it's important, I think, to change the way we think. But to do so, I found one of the easiest ways to do that is to take the action and then the thinking will follow. So there are things like mindfulness, and there's counselors that we have counselors that even come to our school. There are a lot of different things. Our school will soon have a mindfulness center. There are lots of supports, but I find that putting one foot in front of the other and getting up in the morning, whether you want to or not, staying committed is what can help change your thinking about it and help to develop some self-esteem and some motivation.
Thank you. And we do understand, for many of our students, it is difficult. There are a lot of things in life that may come and play, out in the community, in our homes, that may interfere. I mean, some kids are helping their younger siblings with their homework or other things, or cooking or taking care of the house while the parents are at work, and then they're up late and they didn't have time to do their homework, or they didn't have time to do this, and they oversleep and they miss like the first period class, and sometimes they just don't feel like going to school and they miss the whole day.
Mhm,
But working, like you say, working with the staff in the school,
mhm,
you have mental health professionals that are in the school, and others who are available to support our students and trying to find a way to help them to graduate. And a big thing I know is to not feel like you have to go about this alone. If you're
mhm,
struggling,
mhm,
there are people in the school that can help.
mhm.
And that, because our goal is to help you to cross that graduation stage,
Absolutely.
get
That's
your
right.
diploma,
Right,
so that you can go forth and go to the next phase of your life, because
right,
high school graduation is just the beginning. And
right,
so there's so much else out there.
right.
And so if I would say, if you're a student who's listening to this and you are struggling, just know there are people in your schools who are available to support you. And so to help you, with whether it's the concerns going on in your family, whether it's just like, I don't like school, and maybe we need to work on kind of shifting mindsets in terms of the benefits of school, or
Mhm.
maybe there's mental health concerns, or who knows what, there could be a whole lot of
Right,
things. But
right.
um, folks like, Dr. Smith and others are here to help you, as we're
Mhm.
going through this. All right. And so then my last question for you is, so do you have any suggestions or feedback for families and students to help them to stay resilient during this time?
I do. I just think about going back to simpler times before electronics, um, and again, I know my focus is a lot on electronics because I see such a huge role that they play. I was with grandkids over my vacation, and we're walking to somewhere, and you see so. But maybe declaring a device-free day, or just doing simple things like going outside and getting sunshine and fresh air and just enjoying the world around us. I find that learning doesn't just happen through books, but it happens by being attuned to the world around you. So when you pay attention to things and you notice signs, uh, notice just things going on around you, it can help to incorporate some of the learning that you do by just paying attention. And so, but families can, I love the idea of just putting together food and having a picnic lunch at the park or even in your own backyard. If you have the space, just put out a blanket and bring out, your foods and nice beverages and a ball or a frisbee, and just have some of those simpler pleasures, those opportunities. I also, as a kid, had a fond memory of getting an ice cream cone and going for a ride, and we lived in a very modest house. So we go to the exclusive neighborhoods and look at big, pretty houses, or we just go drive through the mountains. I lived in Colorado, but there are so many beautiful places here in the DMV. Just there's water, there are hills and mountains and foresty areas, and just so many unexpected treats. And if you just get in the car and, make a destination and then meander on the way and just look at the beauty around you, it can be so restorative and refreshing. And when you come back home, then you can feel kind of brand new. So those are just some simple things that I enjoy doing and that I actually practice. There's one other thing that I do, and that is, over the decades, I've saved greeting cards that people send to me, especially if they write a note or if someone sent me a nice note or something. I have saved those, and there are times where I may go through those and it's so restorative to hear or see lovely words that people might have said about you or lovely thoughts. And so I would encourage people to just have their own bank of things like that, greeting cards, birthday cards. And maybe, it's a day and time where we don't necessarily receive as many of those things in the mail, but whatever gifts that people give you, just keep those, for the future, and where you can continue to enjoy them.
Oh, thank you for that. And, yes, and even for some of our students, if you get a nice text or a message on your phone from somebody, take a screenshot of it. And you can keep that in case you
Yeah,
don't have like the greeting card or the birthday card or something. You may have that. So,
that's a
it might
nice
be
thing.
something to go and you can save it on your phone and look back at it later. All right. So, I want to thank you, Dr. Smith, for your time to be with us today. And we want to thank our viewers for joining us for Waymaking. To send us additional questions and topics to discuss on the show, please visit the link on your screen. Also, please go to our YouTube playlist to find additional shows in our series. And please join us next time on MCPS Waymaking.